Hi there. This is the final piece of the review of Brené Brown's Braving the Wilderness and the Quest for True Belonging, which I've been going through chapter by chapter, and we were on to chapter 7. And I'm Carrie Dubber from Carrie Dubber Therapy, and it's been a pleasure if you've joined me on this journey, and if you haven't and you're just catching it now, check out some of the other chapters. It's really interesting to delve into this in more detail and explore what Brené Brown is trying to help us understand in terms of our identity, a sense of belonging, a sense of fitting in versus our true belonging to ourselves, and standing up for what matters to us and what is going to help us ultimately connect human to human. So, this is the final chapter, and it's called Strong Back, Soft Front, Wild Heart. And it's bringing together really everything that she's been exploring in the book up to that point. And it's really about how we show up, how we are enabling ourselves to be our true, authentic selves rather than the self that we think other people want us to be or need to be in order to protect ourselves and be part of the crowd rather than on our own and vulnerable. But the bigger problem is if we aren't really saying what we need to be saying and having the courage to stand up for what matters and what feels like the right course of action. So, strong back, what does that mean? It means cultivating inner strength, integrity, and resilience. So, it's about having clear values. I suppose that's what she wants you to really recognize. What is it you stand for? Knowing what that is. A firm sense of self. So, that means trusting in yourself, which is the braving skills that she talked about earlier on in chapter 2 or 3. And she talks about them through the book. And those braving skills, being able to trust in yourself, mean that you can stand up for what matters, even though it might be uncomfortable. So, true belonging requires that courage to stand alone in your own convictions rather than conforming to acceptance. So, knowing what it is and giving yourself that permission. But soft front, what do you mean by that? Soft front means remaining open, tender, vulnerable to others. So, not making judgments quickly and assumptions automatically, falling into that trap of they and them rather than each person's individual and seeing who they are rather than what our assumption is and our prejudices might be. So, being vulnerable to others, even when you're feeling strong, means a willingness to feel your feelings deeply, to show empathy, and engage from a place of genuineness instead of defensiveness. So instead of the rhetoric and speaking as others, speak as you find, open yourself to willingness to listen and understand somebody else first. And a wild heart, what does that mean? It's the spirit of adventure, the braveness to go it alone, embracing life with courage, curiosity, and compassion. So, despite the risks of rejection and despite the potential that people are going to disagree with you and not have the same opinion as you, or that they might feel lonely being out there on your own, having your own point of view. It's about living fully. And what she says the scariest point is when you're going off into the wilderness, when you're saying, right, I'm not going to conform anywhere or just fit in. And that scary point where you're looking back, wishing in a way you were back in that comfort zone. But then once you're out there in the wild, realizing there's lots of people out there amongst you, that you find your tribe, that you know that you're not alone really. And it all comes down to that true belonging is really about belonging to yourself and knowing who you are, your values, and knowing you're standing up for yourself. And then that ability to be with yourself means you're not lonely in the same way. That fear of being rejected. If you're always looking to be part of something, belonging to something, but forgetting that you need to belong to yourself, then it means you're going to be more likely to not have that real fundamental sense of loneliness. So it's wholeheartedness. So true belonging isn't passive, she says, active. It's active and ongoing. It's a practice that involves both standing firm to who you are, that's your strong back, and at the same time remaining open to connection with others, the soft front, and being guided by your uniqueness. So the key takeaways to carry forward for myself, certainly that belonging, the acronym for belonging, is braving, trusting in yourself. So that boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgmental, and gratitude, graciousness. That's the braving. And I've also taken as well that acceptance slips of, writing that out, permission slips that, I'm going to be who I am and you're allowed to do that. And caring less about what people think of that and seeing what happens rather than not taking that risk. So, those are some of the things that I've taken on from reading this book, as well as I certainly am more aware of the danger and the easy road to just agree with other people when you're out in a group or when you're discussing something, and it's easy just to remain silent or agree, and it's more difficult for sure to stand up and say what you really think. But she gives us good guidance on doing that now, so that you're saying what you think, but you're enabling the other person still to have their own opinion. So you're doing it with respect and compassion and kindness and willingness to still be open to and curious about why that other person might feel and think the way they do. So you're not trying to shut it down, you're trying to open up conversations and be more willing to have them rather than fearful of the conflict. So those are the things I've definitely taken away. Some of these other key takeaways. So true belonging belongs within, first of all. It begins with not fitting in just because, not taking your actions because you want to be liked. It's about being yourself and honoring your values and standing your ground and your truth, even if it's difficult. And that strong back, that integrity and courage. So, developing that internal compass where you know what your values are, what you stand for, you're speaking your truth. You stand with clarity and confidence, even if it means being alone sometimes. I like that one. The soft front. So again, what I'm definitely taking that vulnerability, true connection means feeling deeply, showing compassion, engaging with others, not making assumptions, really being open to hearing that other person. That brave engagement with a wild heart. Don't be shying away from the discomfort. It's where genuine connection takes place. So that willingness to do that. So when we're thinking about belonging, it isn't conformity. So belonging doesn't mean trying to adapt yourself to fit in. It really means to be you who you are and connect with others from that place rather than changing who you are to fit in. And that courage finally to be civil, to be connecting with others, speaking and engaging with strangers, practicing that, opening up, asking questions, participating in collective moments of joy and pain, and really feeling that true connection. So that's the whole book done. I love Brené Brown, and feel free to write any comments. Press subscribe if you'd like to follow more from my channel. And also, I'd love to hear if there's any other books you'd like me to review chapter by chapter. This is an experiment, really, just to see if it works. It's certainly helped me deep dive and take on board her work in a much more profound way, because I'm really thinking about it, listening and reading her chapter and taking notes, and that's really helped me really invest that time and energy in it. So I hope you've enjoyed this along the way too, and I really look forward to hearing from you or seeing you soon. Take care. Bye.